and welcome back to the Anything But Bland podcast, where we talk about business, community, and everything in between. This is the Bland & Associates podcast, and I'm KRiskowski.
And I'm Ashley Postwaite.
Hey.
I was like,
Yes.
okay.
We are excited. Today, we have a special guest. She is really knowledgeable in a lot of areas. I have the privilege of working with her together on a couple different engagements, and she just always brings her A game. I feel like she'll appreciate that because she's a competitive sports person.
I do appreciate that.
So Rachel Turek, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you.
Yes,
Good to be on.
Yeah. Well, she said that, and I was looking at your bio before we came in here, and it said that you wanted to be maybe a veterinarian until you got a B.
Yeah.
And then you said A game. I'm like, this is so perfect. I didn't even put it together.
Oh, yeah. Chemistry just kicked my butt, so I... See you later.
Yep. Counting it is. Well, okay, Rachel, we like to ask all of our guests one thing. Like, what do you like to do in your spare time outside of work?
Dateline.
Oh my gosh,
I
that's
love
so
that
funny.
answer.
I saw someone on Instagram had nothing to do on their Friday night, and they're like, "What? I'm gonna sit here and watch Dateline all night. What episodes are your favorite?" Oh
Friday
my
nights
gosh,
are like
seriously?
the Dateline night. Yeah, I
That's
get home
so
from family
funny.
dinner and Dateline's on. I'm like, okay, this is my night. Put
Chill
the
out
kids
and watching
down.
some Dateline.
Time to solve some
Is that,
crime,
I was gonna say, is that
you know?
murders and stuff? You have
Oh,
like
yeah.
nightmare.
Yeah, it's great. I do a lot of the Dateline podcasts
this
too.
is too
'cause
funny.
they-
Okay, like I just got into this podcast situation recently. Social media kind of
Pushed you that way.
Yeah. And
Do
so
you know
I-
the name of it?
betrayal.
Have you heard of that one?
No, I haven't. I'll have
Sounds
to
like
add
a
it to my
spicy
list.
one, maybe betrayal.
A little bit. I can't really talk about it on here.
right. Let's keep this G-rated.
Hey, yeah.
All
Okay,
right.
well, awesome. Yeah, so we have Rachel on today. Season 1, for the loyal listeners, might remember Rachel. We had her on talking about not-for-profits. That's one of Rachel's big areas of interest. The other area that she leads the charge for at her firm is our 401k audit niche. And so Rachel's just going to give us some information today. I think this episode's probably geared more towards our business owners, controllers, CFOs, from a company level perspective, and whether your company offers a retirement plan, and then if and when that retirement plan may need to be required to be audited. So a little bit of context about where we're headed and what we'll hear about today.
Right. So I guess I'll start with the first question.
Yeah.
Can you tell us when a 401k audit would be required?
Yeah, so this is actually kind of a good one to start with because this is changing in January 2023. So
Okay.
exciting stuff for some employers.
Wait, January 2024 or did just
2023.
change?
It just changed. So
okay,
for
okay,
plan
okay.
years in 2023, it's going to
Gotcha.
change. So typically prior, it was always if you have 100 eligible participants as of the beginning of the plan year, you're basically required to file as a large plan and have a 401k audit. So you could have someone with, let's say, 200 eligible participants that need to have a plan audit, but they only maybe have 20 people participating.
Okay.
You still have to have an audit. So beginning January 2023, this regulation's actually just changed, and now it's based on participants with account balances.
Oh.
So a lot of, I could give the example of restaurants. They have a lot of maybe eligible participants, but they're not participating. So they're kind of coming off of that exception and excited because they don't have to incur the cost of a plan audit. So
That's good.
Wow.
yeah, big changes. Yeah.
That'll be
For
interesting
once,
to
some
see.
good tax changes.
Yeah, I suppose people will
Right.
appreciate a little bit of relief. So if someone does qualify for the audit, talk us a little bit through the audit process and kind of some key steps and timelines that are involved.
Yeah, I would say there's like three main spots in terms of how the audit process goes. You have kind of your planning, and then you have your field work, and then I would say kind of an exit conference. So planning is where we are getting to know the plan, right? We're looking at their plan documents, determining what the plan provisions are, any changes, any specific risks, also looking at internal control as it relates to the company itself. And then after we kind of do all of that work, we have field work where we are looking at actual testing, where we're picking samples of data, making sure that information is done correctly. And then after we do all that, we kind of wrap things up, put it into a nice package for the financial statements, and any recommendations or issues that we found are kind of communicated to management, and then those are sent out as well. And then I'm sure the plan sponsor and employer is happy once that's done.
Right. Signed, sealed, and delivered.
Yep.
How do you ensure like the compliance for the Department of Labor or the IRS are going through the audit?
Yeah. One of the biggest things that we look at is like plan provisions. So as an example, eligible compensation. Every plan and document has something that specifies what plan compensation has to be used. So that might be W-2 wages, 3401A wages, something different. And some of those plans also have exclusions. So maybe bonuses are excluded. So we have to test that to make sure that they're using that correct definition as an example, in terms of, if this plan says that bonuses should be excluded, you shouldn't be taking 401k out of it.
Okay.
And so we go through and kind of test all of that and make sure that they're using the correct definition. We're also testing things such as eligibility. Are people properly notified when they're eligible to participate in the plan? A lot of different areas are, tested throughout the 401k process.
How often do you do this meeting or testing or whatever for your companies?
So it's an annual
annually?
audit,
Okay.
yeah, for the most part. I mean, I'm sure there's companies out there that maybe like additional audit procedures or things done if there were issues in the past, maybe to follow up on them. But typically it's just kind of an annual thing. Yep.
Okay.
Good question. So then along the lines of testing, talk us through maybe how we are testing for the accuracy and completeness of the participant data and the plan contributions during the audit.
So what we typically do is we take the payroll report from the employer or the plan sponsor, and we try to reconcile that to the information that got contributed to the plan. So let's say we have a payroll report that's showing $100,000 got taken out of employee paychecks for contributions. Well, we want to make sure, okay, did that $100,000 actually go into the plan? And if not, where's the difference? Did the employer use the money?
Where'd it go?
If so, that's a problem.
Yeah.
But usually it's like a receivable issue where, maybe there was a pay period at the end of the year that, was on the payroll report. It just didn't get recorded until the next year. So immediately bells and whistles aren't ringing when that happens. We kind of know places to look, but it has happened before where people had money taken out and it just never got contributed.
Along with that, I guess, have you ever identified any fraud or non-compliance issues for it?
Non-compliance all the time.
Okay.
Fraud, no.
Okay.
So I'm glad to report no fraud.
That is good.
Yeah. Non-compliance, we typically see that with the first year audit. So once they reach that like 100 participant threshold, they're kind of required to go through the audit process. And typically the biggest area that we see issues with is plan compensation. They're not using the correct definition of it.
Would you say the non-compliance is because they're unaware?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So, maybe the plan was set up 10 years ago and there's been a change in HR personnel or payroll, providers, and, it was set up one way before when the plan was adopted, and now they just never rolled that forward correctly. And
is that a lot of trouble for these people, or is it like a slap on the hand, like you did this once, we can write this explanation of why this happened, but if it happens again?
Yeah, so there's a correction process that they have to go through typically. The IRS has a huge list of all the different things that can kind of go wrong, and you can either kind of self-correct it, go through like a voluntary compliance program to correct it. Typically the employer has to pay a little bit of a fee, along with maybe make contributions on behalf of the participants if something was wrong. So yeah, they've kind of compiled a great list of here's all the things that you can do wrong. Here's how you can fix it.
Gotcha.
So
Well, that's good.
Yeah, that is. So along those lines, you talked about plan definition of compensation being kind of a common area for some issues. Any other common findings that you come across?
yeah, another one would be like delinquent contributions. So like I mentioned, if someone is having money taken out of their paycheck, it's anticipated that that's kind of contributed to the plan as soon as possible. And if not, it's kind of like the employer is borrowing the money, right? It's not their money, it's the employee's money, and they're using it because they're not contributing it to the plan right away. So that's a very high risk area, especially in terms of reviews and things of that nature, because it doesn't matter if it's $2 or $200,000. If they're late, within a
they're
certain guideline, it has to be reported. So we do see a lot of like supplemental schedules with that kind of issue.
What about documentation? I kind of do some reviews of Rachel's reports, and I feel like that can be an area where employers might get tripped up as well.
Yeah, for sure. Deferral elections. So as you know, kind of at our company, we're required to sign anything that we're changing. So if I want 5% taken out of my paycheck, we have to sign it, give it to HR. That goes in a specific spot so the documentation is there. Well, if people have never had audits before, they're not aware that they need to keep some of that information. So what's happening is someone may say, hey, I want 5% taken out. No. They change it in payroll and then they toss it. Or it's verbal, something of that nature, and they don't have documentation. So then when we come in to audit it, we're saying, well, there's 5% taken out here. Where's the documentation saying that's what they wanted? Oh, well, we didn't keep it. And
Yikes.
so
no CYA there.
So then you have to try and go to the participant and ask them. It's a whole thing.
Are you as the auditor, are you going to ask the participants, these companies, the employees, really?
Yeah, we'll get their email addresses and things like that and kind of send a confirmation we don't have the information or it's not readily available. Can you confirm that this is what you wanted taken out?
Part of me is thinking with all the spam emails going around, do you ever those just get deleted and you have to keep, because they're probably yeah, right.
Oh,
delete,
for sure.
delete.
All the time. Yeah. Confirmations are very last resort situation.
Sure. Okay.
We don't typically send them first. So it's kind of if we run into an issue and see, okay, we need to get something.
Yes. Next steps.
Yes.
Okay, well, are there any best practices or recommendations you can offer to improve efficiency and effective of the 401k plan?
Yeah. Read your plan document. As an employer, HR, controller, CFO, whatever position you are in the company, just make sure you're reading your plan document because that specifies all your plan provisions. And that will give you an idea of how you need to set that information up in payroll or, if there's other provisions that you need to review and know about, those will kind of be in there. The other thing I always recommend is, you utilize service providers. That's what they're there for. Third-party administrators help significantly in terms of ensuring all of the fiduciary responsibilities are being taken care of, making sure that employers do know, hey, this big change was made to your plan document. You need to do A, B, and C now on your end to make sure that you comply with it. So I always recommend, utilizing people that can help and are specializing in that because, there's already a lot on employer and HR people's plates. It's hard to track all the changes and things like that. So TPAs can definitely help in making sure that they're tracking it for them.
Nice.
That's huge. Okay, final question. Circling back, tell us some important deadlines or dates to be aware of.
Yeah, so July 31st, yesterday was the initial deadline for calendar year end plans. It's typically 7 months after year end, and then the extension is now October 15th. So if you had 100 eligible participants as of the beginning of the plan year, so 1/1/22, and you've never had an audit before, reach out to us.
Ooh, there we go. We'll put your information in the show notes.
We have had stragglers come in, October 2nd. They're we just realized that we need a 401k audit done. And so
you're perfect, no problem. I'll get right on that.
So the earlier the better.
Yes, please.
Right.
Oh, man. Well, huge kudos to Rachel for coming out because if you picked up on those deadlines that she shared, this is her busy time.
Yes.
And she still graced Ashley and I and all the listeners with her presence. So
her knowledge.
Thank you,
yes.
Rachel.
Thank you.
Yeah, very helpful. And one thing we'll share too is we always kind of issue the disclaimer. These episodes are really just an intro to the topic, just a primer. So if you have specific questions about your company or about a 401k audit, it's best just to reach out and just run your scenario by us and get a correct answer. We'd be more than happy to help and hear more.
Yeah, for sure. There's so many different scenarios and things can differ from plan to plan. So we're always happy to help and verifying, you guys do need an audit, you don't, things of that nature.
Perfect. Thank you so much for everything.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
As always, we appreciate all your likes and reviews on our podcast to build it up. So if you have any questions and you want to reach out, you can find Kaylee's email address in the show notes, and she will get you connected to the right person. Also follow us on Instagram at Bland Accounting is the handle. Sorry.
The IG, guys.
Yes. Or you can find us on blandcpa.com. So with that,
Be informed.
be inspired.
Be awesome.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
A Hurrdat Media Production.